Good
Hi,
morning,
everyone.
everyone. It's Saturday noon and it's time to wake up.
And smell the rosin.
Yay! We're very excited about today's presentation. It's going to be very, very useful, I know, for many of you.
Oh, make sure you turn
Yeah. Oh, so
your phone. Yeah. Mom has a video on the background.
it's okay, but at least we know that the sound is working. So it never hurts to have a little extra check, right?
Right.
So Esther, you want to tell a little bit about our guests?
Sure. So our guests today are Hamid Erfani and Yasaman Seif. I hope I said that correctly, the names. But I'm sorry if I said them incorrectly. You can correct me. But they are here with us. If you guys want to unmute and turn on your camera, they're going to be presenting. They have a project called Muse Muscle, and this is continuing on with our Wellness for Musicians series, Musicians Wellness, where we're just talking about how to stay well mentally, physically, in the practice room and while performing, so that we can have the best performance possible and the best practice possible. So if you guys want to unmute and stuff, go ahead and we can start the presentation.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
I think you guys are on mute still.
Zoom. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There you are. Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to have you guys. I remember we had such a fun time on your what is it called?
It's Instagram Live.
Yeah, on your Instagram Live. And I'm glad that we can reciprocate and have you and Yasaman especially, because she's a cellist. So, so it makes it even closer to our demographic, I guess, of our subscribers.
And you guys are joining us from Tehran, right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow, this is insane. The distances that we're bridging. It's so fun, so fun. Actually, for those who might not know, I was born in Baku, Azerbaijan, so not too far from where you guys are now. But it was a very long time ago. I'm not going to say when.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you. Okay. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I just want to thank you for having us. It is such a pleasure for us to be here. And I just want to thank you for being my special guest in my IG Live series. It was such an honor for me to host you guys. And that was an amazing IG Live. I learned a lot of things and the audience loved it. I received a lot of messages from there that they said, okay, it was a beautiful one. Thank you.
That is awesome. We're so happy to hear that. Like, we had so much fun in that too, and we were talking about it. Like, man, that was just so fun, and the audience was really interactive, and it was just really organic. It was super fun. So we were really excited to have you. And I know we had a huge space between when we were on yours and when you were on ours, but we're finally here.
Yeah, so great.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's really awesome. But yeah, so if you guys want to go ahead and get started and just tell us, start your presentation, tell us a little bit about Muse Muscle, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my name is Yasaman. I'm a cellist, an educator, and certified Muse Muscle teacher, and Hamid, my husband.
My name is Hamid. I'm a composer, guitarist, and musician self-researcher.
Today we are going to talk about performance-related injuries, my instrumentalists, and our specific approach toward these problems.
We will introduce Muse Muscle method, and we will let you know how it all started and which phase we are right now.
Okay, let's see what Muse Muscle is.
Okay, you can.
Muse Muscle is a unique method that thoroughly studies the existing technical weaknesses in instrumentalists, the possibility of playing-related injuries because of those weaknesses, and the muscles it was for every single technique. This approach led to designing various exercises, unique exercises that are used for peak performance with absolute freedom in every technique.
The idea of Muse muscle came to, we will talk about the founder, of course, but we always feel that there is a gap for musicians. They don't have a specific instrument as exercises that will help them to improve their performance. And it was the idea, the basic idea of Muse muscle. And why we came to this idea was because as an instrumentalist, we have different needs. For example, if I'm a guitarist, I need independence in the fingers, I need separation in the fingers. But if I'm a percussionist, I need actually unity and coherence in my fingers. Well,
so the exercises fall into the three main categories, as Hamed mentioned: unity, combination, and separation.
Yes. Separation exercises are extremely good for instruments that need fingers. For example, the left hand of the violin, if you are of course writing. The left hand of the cello, both hands of the guitars. These exercises are good for those instrumentalists, but the unity is good for percussionists. And we have specific exercises which we the two nervous hemispheres of our mind, and they are good for example, violinists, because they need a unity in one hand, the bow hand, and they need separation in the other one. We have specific techniques and exercises that improve the unity in one hand and the separation in the other.
Okay, and Muse muscle is based on the three fundamental principles: mental and executive distinction, energy control, and motor units. Motor units transmit the electrical signals to the muscles. The more adequate and profound these signals to more natural body movements, which are according to the right kinesthetic set. Also, we have a 6 body size in Muse muscles: upper and lower body, left and right, and front and back.
We believe that playing an instrument and playing music is not just local. We cannot play music with our hand. We have to play music with our whole body, our entire body. And that's why we introduced these 6 body size and always help the students to understand them and help them to have identical body size. For example, although as a violinist, my right hand is going to be different from the left one, the body size should have the same feeling. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's using for the bow and it's using for the finger. It should have the same feeling. And we help a student with specific exercises to have the same feeling in right and left side of the body. We say symmetrical body size, upper and low, and front and back. This way, you can help the energy follow through your body from big muscles to the small ones. Now, we are going to the history of Muse muscle and how it all started. Is there any questions so far?
I have a question, but I guess it's not a question, but it's a comment. But I really love like what you're saying about the playing an instrument being something that involves the whole body, and that it's something that we like having that energy like being balanced and coming from different parts of your body. Because I think sometimes when we're playing, we're thinking, oh, it's just my fingers, or it's just my bow arm, or it's just like this, like my shoulder or something. But it really like all those motions come from like your core and your back and all these other muscles, and even your feet. Like one of the things I tell my students, especially cellists, is like pay attention to your feet, because a lot of tension can come from your feet. Like if you're like if you don't have your feet planted on the ground, if you have one of your toes up, or if your foot is like curved, or if your feet are on the ground but they're kind of lifted and you're not grounded with your body. It's so interesting like how those things can really just slip by. So I love that you guys are talking about that, because it's really important. And you're right, there is a gap there. where people don't necessarily have those kinds of exercises to do. So that's really, really cool. I'm excited to hear more.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. Yes, don't get me started. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. Totally agree.
Don't get me started on the food of guitarists. There are a lot of tensions in guitarist food, feet actually. That and whenever they want to play a fast passage or there's a let's say phrase that is fast, they usually push their feet on the ground and they do something like this. It's an common problem among guitarists.
Yeah. Speaking about feet, of course, as a violinist, we stand, right? So we are aware that, again, not that it's a little more natural for us to also think maybe how we stand, but I remember the first time I realized how much the way I plant my feet affects my sound is when I got my first iPad and I started playing with the page turner that I was supposed to press with my foot. And I was shocked how much that moment where I had to lift my foot a little bit and press, how much it affected everything in my body. And I could not just wrap my brain about it. It actually took me a while. I'm still like, I have to figure out where do I like the pedal be on the floor to interfere with my playing in the least. It was really mind-boggling to me. And I thought, I have to take a look at some of my students and see how they're actually planting their feet. Like which one is the head, which one is in the back, even that, it really messed up with my weight distribution when I had to just do that one little thing. And that was the moment where I had that aha moment. I thought, oh my goodness, I should pay attention a little bit more to where I'm planting my weight depending on where on the bow I am. It was just like, an epiphany. It's crazy.
Yes. Thank you for adding that. It was perfect. It was perfect. And I personally never thought about the violinists and how they actually stand and which feet actually they put forward and that. That was brilliant. I always tell my students to do a really simple exercise. If you lock your left ankle, you can move your fingers hardly, but if you just let it go, you can move your right fingers freely. And you see how they are connected, the left ankle with the right fingers.
Oh, so
they really affect each other, which is really important. That's why we say playing music is absolutely a body coordination.
That's so interesting.
It's not vocal.
Wow, that's cool.
That is very interesting.
Yes. Okay, let's go to the story, yes?
So, I love Muse myself. Sparked Mr. Bobby's curiosity one day in the class when one of his students was unable to perform a specific techniques that he was teaching. After too many repetition, he became angry and his student sent his student out of the class. Following that, he was ashamed of what he did, and therefore he went after his students. And when he saw worried face, he tried to calm him and recommended some calm. Something, go for a walk and a cup of coffee, drink a cup of coffee, something else, and relax. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he remembers some elementary instrumentless exercises, and although they had nothing in common with the required techniques, he asked his student to do this. Surprisingly, when they went back to the class, the student was able to the same exercises without difficulty. So he was shocked, and a couple of questions came up in his mind.
Mr. Baba is a percussionist, and he was actually teaching the percussion during that time. And as a teacher, sometimes we get angry when the student is not able to do something. He suddenly, got angry and sent him out of the class. But when they came back and the student was able to perform that specific technique with no difficulty, there were some questions, as Yasaman mentioned. He was just thinking how a simple break can accelerate the learning process. He was thinking to himself, okay, we just went out, he had coffee, and we didn't do anything related to the instrument or to the technique. What happened that we came back, he was able to perform that technique.
Yeah.
And suddenly he was just processing that question when he thought to himself, okay, there are a lot of the students, they kill themselves by long hours of practicing. They actually become drained by endless practices. But the result is not what they want. The result is not even the same. And then he just was thinking to himself, okay, I teach this student, and I teach after that the next student. Why the music education should be the same for both of them? Because they are unique. They have different let's say mental and physical situation. Why should I teach the same thing to both the students?
And muscles.
Yes, different muscles and different background. For example, if I'm a typist, I have a better separation in my fingers. I have better independence in my fingers. I can't become a better pianist because it's almost the same. The position is the same. The posture is the same. And he was thinking, okay, why music education should be the same for all of them?
In answer to this tricky question, he started to learn anatomy from Dr. Rabi, who assistant professor at Erfani University of Medical and Science. During the course, he learned that every motion in our body is based on a number of motor units that transmit the electrical signals, as I mentioned before that. So he conclusion lack of knowledge about these motor units in performing some specific techniques and some specific techniques, and the performance persistence of learning them on the instrument cause tension in the muscles. Continue practicing at this phase may result in performance-related injuries and at worst, lack of control.
Yes, he was actually thinking, okay, we need some motor units to do a specific thing. For example, if let's compare instrumentalists with athletes. If I just want to, for example, swim, I have to do some specific motions to learn how to swim. Learning those is actually by strengthening the motor units. We learn the muscles how to operate. And he thought, okay, then the student wants to learn everything on the instrument. That becomes a little bit difficult because the posture that we use for the instrument is different. It's not a natural position. For example, I hold the violin like this. This is not my natural position. In my everyday life, I'm never like this. If I play the cello, I never like this. If I play the guitar, I never like this.
Especially in vibration, because we not experience in vibration in our life.
Yes, doing the vibration on instruments is something completely new. And he decided to actually design some exercises that are done in a natural posture, according to our kinesthetic sense. We talked a lot. Are there any questions?
No,
we don't want to be talkative, okay, but there are a lot of information and we are trying to cover all.
Yeah, it makes sense. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. We're keeping an eye on it here.
Yeah.
So, and I have it open, so you don't have to worry.
Good.
But yeah, I have it open. So if you have any questions, let us know. But yeah, that's great. That's interesting. I liked the story about the student.
Yes, I like the story as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Do you have any comments?
I'm just posting the link to make for my students to make sure that they don't forget to tune in, because this is what I just posted in our this is what I had to go through. It's maybe the story is not quite like that, but because I was taught old school, which is, I think it was a great way when you start early. And as a child, you're given certain things to play, and then your body, I feel that's the advantage because you have so much time. So people who, and also where I come from, there's a certain selection that happens, when you're educated and when you start your instrument, you start around 6 or 7 years old, but also the teachers have a luxury of choosing, so if the child is obviously, maybe not showing any signs of natural, kind of ability for a certain instrument, they don't have to take that person. So of course that plays into it. So intuitively, so usually the kids who start, they already have that kind of natural adaptability to an instrument. There's some ways that you can tell, and they have usually pretty good music pitch and all those, just very beginning. It doesn't have to be anything super. So with that in mind, and the fact that it kind of develops naturally because the teacher is giving you certain exercises, but they allow you just to play those. And I think because you have so much time, your body gets to find those, gets to understand how it works naturally. And so coming from that system, when I came to the US, all of a sudden I was hit with the opposite. Because where I teach, I love UTRGV. I love being in the Rio Grande Valley because there's so much natural talent. It's like a kid in the candy store. I see all these kids, they play, and I realize a lot of them who come to my studio, a lot of them never had private lessons. And it's getting better because now my students are teaching, and everyone is encouraging them, but there's just sometimes, it just doesn't happen. It's just not ingrained in the culture quite as much. And so I went through epiphanies like this when I thought that I realized that I cannot be teaching these students the same way I was taught. Not because the system was flawed, it was designed for that kind of education where you have already a pretty talented material, like someone who is already and young with a lot of time. So my teachers didn't have to explain things to me. They just gave me certain exercises that were proven to have. And so it happened that naturally with being young and having all that time, your body naturally adjusts to it. I think that's the secret with the old school. I'm sorry, we're getting Amber Alerts.
It's the tornado warning.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying, I kind of had to go through that where I had to visualize what is it now that my body is doing. Try to catch those images. You know how everything you do, there's an image in your mind. It's just you don't pay attention to it. And so it helped me. So I would have to do it like that. And of course, find it definitely, there's a very individualized approach to every student, but also I had to figure out other ways, like shortcuts, because when you teach students who are older, who are talented, but older, you can appeal to different, you can appeal to their logical skills much more. The same things, trying to compare things that happen in the violin that you do in normal life, but you don't realize it. So that is very, like, I like that because this is something you have to deal with. Exactly, because you don't, even as a child, every student is different. But especially when you start dealing with different ages, where different ages and different stages on each age, that really makes a lot of sense to me. I've seen that, how helpful that could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yes, exactly. I really love this conversation because you are both experienced, and when we talk, you can feel that, and you add something beautiful to that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I mean, you guys are great too. It's just great. I really am enjoying the conversation.
Thank you. Should we go on? There was no question?
Go ahead. I don't see any questions. It might also be because of the storm down here. Because I think maybe some people might be without power. So if there's not as much interaction, it might be because of that. But people can always come back and watch later too, because we keep it on the channel. And
they can post questions later, and we will post it on Facebook, and so let's just keep going.
Okay.
So regarding athlete background, Mr. Babai, he started to compare instrumentalists with athletes, and he found out, despite all the similarity, what a musician do is much more difficult due to two reasons. First, instrumentalists use really small muscles in performance, and training those and working with them is way more delicate than big ones. And the second, music performance requires full body coordination for a top level result. So finally, he came to the conclusion that musicians are athletes of small muscles.
Yes, I personally really believe in that because what we do, we are just trying to strengthen our muscles and help those motor units to become more strong. And this is exactly what athletes do. For example, they work for years to just be able to, for example, kick the ball or something like that in a good way. And we are trying to plug the strings. And with the left hand, we press the strings. Okay, we are doing the same thing, but we are using small muscles and we are using a little bit force, but for actually athletes, because they are working with the big muscles, they use a lot of force. So he was thinking, okay, what we are doing is much more difficult because training those small muscles, for example, imagine the small muscles in my hand, they are really small. And training those are not easy. It takes a lot of time. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense.
After thorough investigation into the professional athletes, he found that beside their principal sports, they also do fundamental exercises such as cardio, stretching, isometric, bodybuilding, and something else to maximize their career efficiency. For instance, go swimming and sleep early, have a regular full body massage, and consult a nutrition expert, use meditative techniques to send their minds and rest, and never start physical activities temporarily warming up enough and cooling down gradually.
Yes. Athletes, we all know, for example, just imagine a professional, just imagine Cristiano Ronaldo, a really famous soccer player. If you just go through his life, I have seen his documentary and stuff like that. Their life is totally different with ordinary people because they take a lot of care about their recovery, their sleep, their nutrition, their mind, everything. But musicians do none of the above. For example, my friend just take the instrument and start playing the instrument. Okay, don't you warm up? Yeah, in his bed. Don't you need to warm up or don't you need to cool down? And if you warm up, he says, okay, I play some scales, I play some arpeggios, I play some chords, and it can help me to warm up. But it's not like that. Just imagine a professional athlete. They never just throw the ball and start kicking. They run, they actually, let's say that do some stretching, they do a lot of exercises. After that, they just put the ball on the ground and start playing. It should be the same for instrumentalists. We need some instrumentless warm-up, cool-down, stretching. We need, for example, some fundamental exercises that would help us to grow our techniques on the instrument.
And we need rest between practicing, such as athletes, because yes, and they have a special lifestyle, but instrumentalists didn't have a special lifestyle.
Yes, for example, sometimes we become actually a night owl. We stay up until morning and practice music. Okay, is it good? Is it really efficient what we are doing? I know we can do it. A robot can do that as well, but is it really efficient? Does our mind process? For example, today I was watching an interview by Isaac Berman, and he was just saying, okay, your mind is like a sponge. If you put a sponge in the water, it can absorb a specific amount of water. Okay, when you are practicing, for example, 8 hours a day, does your mind absorb that, or we are just doing something mechanical.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like that with a couple of the things you said. First of all, and this is backtracking a little, but when you were talking about doing something before you even pick up your instrument, I didn't even like think of that for a long time until I went to graduate school. And one of my teacher there, she said to get, before you even touch your cello, get your heart rate going, get your blood pumping, stretch, do things. So she said even if you're in a place where you don't have room, she was like, do arm circles. That's the thing she likes to do. Like big arm circles, little arm circles, forward, back, and like stand up, do jumping jacks in place. She was like, just do something to get your blood pumping to your extremities, because, you know, if you're, you know, yeah, our blood is always circulating, but you need to get like to get your heart beating so everything gets warm, you know. And so I totally agree with that, and I tell my students to do that. And I'm excited to like see some more exercises and things that we can do. But that's really great.
I also like, you know, about I was thinking of something because you were talking about how there are different ways to practice, right? And the same, when you stick with exact same routine, after a while you stop paying attention and just going with that. Even if you look at, like, we're both playing both instruments in Yasaman, you two. So think, this is one of the things that's such a big mistake a lot of people make, because they automatically assume that it's easier to play something much in a very slow tempo than in the fast tempo. But it's not true for your bow arm. Yes, for
you're
left
actually
hand,
holding it up longer.
yeah,
in that
for
one
left
position.
hand it's much easier. But when you bow very slowly in the bow arm, I have to tell them this is actually a very, very high level skill. Bowing slowly is when you actually move your bow very slowly, and that's what happens. And that takes me back to why my teachers always insisted that I use more bow than I wanted at the beginning. And I realized that now, because that creates that little, communication between muscles, so you don't end up using the same muscle for a long time, which that is a great skill to have. But if you do it at the beginning, so it's not, so for left hand, yes, if you do it slower, it's better. But for the bow, it's a complete opposite. And just what you were saying, you can't just think slow practice. Yeah. It means different things for left hand and for the bow, And
so that's like one of the things, like in orchestra, I always notice, because you think that you would get more tired playing something fast paced, right? You think you'd be more tired after playing a really fast, but no, it's those long adagio movements.
And especially piano.
Yeah, where you're just holding, and when it's quiet, because you can't even drop your weight in the string, and you're just holding it, like you're holding your arm up and just barely touching the string. Those, like, so tired after playing those. It's just exhausting. And you wouldn't think of it. And people, if you're watching from the audience, would be like, oh, yeah, this is the easy one. Yeah, this is the one that's easy.
That's
and
where
it's
your
like,
back, you need to know how to get your back in the right, at the right angles. You start feeling your shoulder blades, all those things.
For me, it's like here, like this gets really tired.
But that's
and I'm just
good.
Like,
This is good, because that's what... and speaking about, one of the things that I had to rethink completely, what dawned on me when I was teaching, students who are very talented and they already had some background playing, and we had to, some of them, redo their posture and things. One day it just dawned on me, I said, okay, every violin teacher talks about, ask any violin teacher, they'll tell you how important it is to have the right setup, how to hold the bow and the violin correctly. But I had this epiphany. I realized, wait a minute, before that, the most important thing before that, that's a step 2. The step 1 is how to teach my students to hold their arms properly. Because on the violin, if you do, and I realized that's what I'm doing differently. Because I was thinking, well, it looks like they're doing it right, but it doesn't get the same result. And then it just I thought, wait a minute, the whole thing with violin, first you have to know where you're holding your arms up, and if you do it right, yes, this is where you should get tired, because these muscles should do obviously the back, but and so I started teaching my students to do this, so they can tell the difference between, and so if you're tired here, that means good, that means you're supporting the weight of your arm here, and they're leaving these as relaxed as possible to do the job. But it's, it never, and I had amazing teachers, and of course I think it's probably expected, but sometimes like those little things, you have to address it, and then you see a huge change. So
Exactly, exactly. Uh, you mentioned something beautiful, Esther, about warming up before this, playing your instrument and help the blood pressure to come to the extremities. Yasan is gonna tell something about that. Go on, this part. We are gonna continue the story of Muse myself, but this part is really related to that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, musician on the other hand, what?
This is the next one.
The next one. So he conducted in-depth research on musicians and the required factors that affect their performance, such as nutrition, sleep, breaks, environmental stress, body temperament, also known as mizaj in Asian culture, yes, and blood pressure and density and non-related activities or jobs that conflict with their progress and might be harmful to their career, including material arts,
Martial arts.
yes. Martial arts and bodybuilding, boxing, lifting, and pushing heavy objects, to name a few.
The thing is that sometimes we try to warm up, but the problem is not that moment. We have, for example, we have low blood pressure, or our blood density is not is too much that the blood cannot flow to the extremities. And at that place, if I'm an athlete, I will do some tests, and they will understand it and they will help me. But as a musician, nobody is gonna help me. For example, Yasaman as a student, her hands is like ice.
Yes.
It's exactly like ice. And the problem is the blood pressure, low blood pressure. She needs to go to the doctor. She cannot do anything in the music class because her fingers are not moving, are not operating. And sometimes the problem that we have with our body needs to be, cured somewhere else. It's not in the music class. We have to find that, and that's why we say, okay, we have to understand and recognize our body, what we need for our body.
Absolutely.
Should I continue?
Yes.
Okay, on the other hand, he changed his viewpoint and considered music performance as a specialty. Yes, it's a hard word for me.
No, you're doing great. English sounds great.
yeah.
Thank you. And not a profession, and so he decided to build some fundamental exercises for musicians. So far, he has designed more than 115 detailed instrumentless exercises for symmetrical body sides, having the same feeling in different body sides, weight transferring from big muscles to the small muscles, and releasing the possible tension which may occur during the performance, and improving finger independence and cohesion.
Should we just show some of the exercises
Yes,
before
yes,
going
yes.
to the complementary techniques?
Yes.
Okay. Let's. We will show you demonstrate some exercises. We will name them and we will tell you which category they are in. Okay, let's go. Let me just take off my watch. We have to just put this.
Yeah. I'm going to actually. I'll turn off our camera for a bit so that you guys go full screen so everyone can see really well. But we'll still be here. I'm just gonna. That way, I'm gonna turn off I'm gonna turn on speaker view actually instead of gallery. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
So this will be good. Okay. It should be better.
Okay. We are going to show you an exercise. It's called Rotary. It helps it helps your body to transfer the body natural weight from your upper back muscles to the arm and to the wrist and after that the fingers. Because we all in Muse muscle we always say that playing an instrument, as I mentioned in the beginning, is not locally. We shouldn't use these small muscles because they can get injured easily. We have to use the big muscles and actually transfer the body natural weight and energy from them to these small muscles. This exercise helps you to transfer the body natural weight from. I think you have to just come forward. It's okay. Okay, go. This exercise is called Rotary. The the lower body is actually it's not moving. The upper body is just rotating, and the hands are hung from the body. You don't feel the arms and then the hands. You are just moving your torso, and the hands are being followed by the torso. This way, you can at first find your body natural weight, and then transfer that weight to the rest. Yes, from upper back, you can just turn around. You see this upper back muscle, they are just throwing the arms. It helps you to get rid of the possible tension that you may have in the practice session as well. And you want to go to the next one? Then she's going to show you and demonstrate the exercise called ski stick. It's like the thing that the ski players do. Yes. It also helps you to transfer the body natural weight and energy to the, let's say, hands and wrist. She's just, let me just, yes, from the laterally, she's just throwing her arms up and then she just let go of the arms and they come down by using the gravity. This way you will find the body natural. Use upper? Yes, she's using her upper back muscles for throwing the arms. Could you please? This area, she's using this place, these muscles to throw the arms up. Okay. What else do you want to show? We can. Yeah. You can use the vertical shoulder. That's better. The other one is called the vertical shoulder. It also helps you to have symmetrical body size and have, let's say, find the body natural weight again. Because the body natural weight is really important for us in Muse muscle classes. We have a lot of exercises. And understand chest and back muscles, and you can feel clearly. Yes. Again, she raises her shoulders, then she just let go of that. They fall off with the gravity. This way they can actually, she can understand the body natural weight again. Yes. After that, you can feel chest muscles and back muscles, and you can use for going from this, not this. When she's there is a video that was screened at Varna Summer International Music Festival in Bulgaria. We recorded that video. In that video, Yasaman demonstrates how she uses her upper back and her chest muscle for bowing. She doesn't use her arm at all. She use for example, the upper back muscles and then the chest muscles. There's no the deltoid, the bicep, the tricep, the forearm. They are all free. There's no tension in any of them. She's just using the lower back muscles for this movement and the chest muscles for the back part movements. These exercises actually are. Could you do the separation? No, okay. Let's go for the exercises that are related to our wrist and hand. For example, it works for separation in a left hand for cellist or violinist or guitarist. It's like that.
1, 2, 3, 4. After that, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do it slowly and feel this place. Or after that, you can.
Before that, when you do something like snapping, okay, they come and they are here. After that, you hold the fingers with your thumb. Go ahead, do the first part. This is the first part. She is holding the fingers with her thumb and she opens the fingers up to here. Now she tries to open them.
It works from MCP joints. And we feel better MCP joint, and we can move our fingers in independence and with MCP joint, not these joints.
We say that we have to use the bigger joints to prevent injuries. So we use the MCP joints, which are the first joints in our hand, and of course they can help you to have a wider range of movement. Any more exercises to show, or you can? So, how much time do we have?
What time is it?
It's 12:52. I'm sorry. No, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. We can go as long as you like. Usually we'll go to like 1:15, 1:30 our time. So we could go for another like 15, 30 minutes, depending on what you want to do. So no rush.
We can use sticks and
yes, because the complementary techniques of Muse are really interesting for the audience. We can go to the complementary techniques because if we believe if we just make it longer, it's gonna be a little bit tiring if we just tell the words and we don't do exercises. Let's go to the complementary techniques.
Can I ask a quick question? Can I put a request? If we have time, Yasaman, what would be, actually, I don't know, I think you use vibrato on guitar too. What are some of the best exercises to help introduce vibrato? Because if there are any, because that seems to me to be the hardest thing to explain. I mean, if you guys have anything you could share eventually, maybe right now, maybe a little later, I would really appreciate it because that's something that I always look for.
The exercises for vibrato?
Yes, we have different exercise for vibrato. It's vertical and.
Yes. We believe that vibrato fall into two categories: vertical and horizontal. Yes. Which one do you want? We have a specific exercises for both of them.
Because we can move our finger vertical to the up, and we can move our finger.
This is the horizontal. Yes. We're usually horizontal.
Yes, and we have two different techniques. For specific for fingers and for the rest, like this. You see my hand.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes. For example, this works for a bow, hand, right hand. It's
it's a vibrato. Actually, let's say.
So what was that? A wrist?
I forgot the word. Wrist? No, it's not like that. Her wrist is in a. She's just vibrating her arm from the.
From upper back, chest, arm, forearm, hand, and finger, and they are acting free.
Yeah.
They are actually moving together, and there's a coordination between all those muscles. This is vibrating, this is vibrating, this vibrating, the bicep, tricep, they are all vibrating together. Because we say if we just think of the vibrato only here, the vibrato will not sound good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned this because that's
and mentioned in arm and in forearm. Yes. If I use just for finger. or another exercise. Okay, and another exercise like this.
So you can do
And
it with the left hand too,
again,
right?
yes, again, we have to move chest
Mhm.
muscles, back muscles, upper back muscles.
So everything is
Yes,
connected, right?
yes,
Right, right.
yes, yes.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I feel like there's a misunderstanding in the violin world. I'm not sure what, I think cello is bigger. Maybe it's not as relevant because you can't do anything without, cello is so big. With violin, because it's so small, sometimes it's addressed as the wrist vibrato or arm vibrato, and sometimes people try to separate it, and so it starts a lot of arguments. But I think that you can just have a little bit more of each. But in the end, if you have a decent vibrato, you're going to notice that you're using everything. It has to come from somewhere bigger from your body. Otherwise, you're just going to injure yourself. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that in the violin world, I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding of vibrato because people try to separate wrist vibrato or arm vibrato, but I believe that they're always connected. And even if person
Exactly.
thinks that they only vibrate from the arm, I think if you there's no way you can do that. You have to, I mean, only vibrate with the wrist, for example. Or some people say, well, you only come from the arm, but eventually it does translate to the wrist. So this is really great. I like that.
Thank you. Okay. These exercises. Okay. We use these exercises with the big muscles as fundamental exercises because we want to help the student understand the vibrato comes from the most, let's say, internal muscles. We don't use these muscles for vibrato. We use internal muscles. We use our body coordination, our body core for this vibrato. We start with the big muscles. We help them to understand the vibrato. Then, step by step, we come from big muscles to the small ones and make it locally. At first, the students do these exercises. They understand how the vibrato comes from the big muscles. Then we just narrow what we want to teach, and we go to the exercises that are really local. Yes, I can show.
Yes. And we can use bar for exercises, a table, and after that we can use this finger in our string. But I don't have a table. I show you in our hand. It's just like this. This shape of my hand like this. Like C. Yes.
Yeah, I tell my
Yes.
kids that too.
Yes. And for example, this is a table, and I put my finger. It's the muscles, and just
You see how
Just
hard.
narrow the
yes,
movement.
just narrow the movement, finger by finger. Yes.
That's
But the thing is
that's
that
exactly
now,
that's exactly what I do with my students. I transfer it I take it away from the instrument and put it on the table. We did that for bowing with the stand. Like I would line the stand parallel to your body and then let them rest the bow and the arm. This is ingenious. And actually what you're saying, I remember my teachers in conservatory, they always talked about bigger muscles. They always said every time you think of technique, go to the bigger muscles. I mean, it wasn't maybe so detailed, but that was always the message. You want to use bigger muscles. You want to make sure that you're coming from the bigger and then just narrowing it down. That's just very much, I'm looking back to how it was taught, and I'm very happy to hear it because it comes very much along with the ideas that, I would like to propel with my teaching.
thank you. So glad to hear that.
And you can use the vertical vibration like this, but it's a soft place surface, but like this, it's a vertical. And you can use these exercises just strong, yes, strong, and move the last joints and understand your last joints, and after that you can vibrato in vertical.
Those are the kind of exercises that I feel like I need sometimes because I have my fingers are double jointed, like, and so sometimes I like feel like my joints are weak or like that they bend sometimes when I don't want them to, especially if I'm like nervous. And so one of my teachers told me to get like there's like a putty. It's like a soft putty you can use, and you like stick your finger and you kind of like do exercises, kind of like that. But the putty like adds a little bit of resistance. But that kind of reminds me of those exercises, just like working those little joints and everything to like strengthen
Yes.
them.
We believe that you have to know, you have to understand every place of your body. For example, for our fingers, we introduce 6 different sensory points. For example, it's number 1, number 2 between the joints. The next one is number 3 between the joints. Number 4. The next one is number 5. Here is number 6. Yes.
Tattoo.
Oh no!
You see, we have these 6
1, 2.
different points in our finger. Because I'm a guitarist, from a guitarist view, if we use each of them as a sensory point and we just concentrate on each of them, the way you play is totally different. I will guarantee that. For example, if I think of this place when fingering, actually the movement becomes wider. You see, I'm thinking of this joint.
That is true.
But if I think of this place, the second one, it's gonna be really next to the strings with no energy loss. And that's why we always introduce these actually these points to the students, because we believe using different place as a sensory point, as an energy source, is gonna make a big difference.
And actually, this exercise is really good for low position, for example, thumb position, or after that, yes, because we use these joints more than first position, upper position, yes.
That's great.
cool.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And I thinking of it like more from the first point is really helpful,
Yeah.
especially in thumb position, because you have like that's one thing I think when I'm teaching, especially like beginners who are just learning thumb position, like there is like some strength involved in thumb position and you have to build up that strength, but I think it's so much more helpful to explain it like that. Like it's not just the tip of your finger like pressing, it's it comes from a further back.
That's great. Thank you. This is so helpful.
Can you wait, sir, like this? It's yes. For it's a box for thumb position because we know weight, how to use weight in thumb position, and we push our thumb, and we had a painful experience in thumb position. But when we use this base, we know how to use small muscles. For example, the tenor area, or transfer muscles, big muscles to this area, tenor area.
Oh, awesome. How do you use that?
They usually stick that to my hand. Let me just to the student's hand. Let us just go really shortly through a Muse muscle class. Yasaman is gonna help me to understand how to use my body natural weight and find the energy source for playing a really simple technique on the guitar. Is it okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's. We just go through the complementary techniques because we have a lot of things to say about the chair, about the footstool. They are really important, but now we just go through complementary techniques. and understand the different weights that we have introduced in Muse muscle and different tapes that we have introduced in Muse muscle.
After that, I draw some line from arm joint.
Okay, let me just do the exercise. I just want to do some exercise with my index and middle finger. I want to play them alternately, and I use my index finger and middle finger. Yasaman is going to show me how to transfer my body naturally from bigger muscles, the forearm muscles, the extensors here, to this joint, to these fingers, to help me play them. I think it's okay. To help me play them with more weights and more freely. Now that I'm doing this exercise, Yasaman finds the energy source in my hand and tries to help me follow the energy from that energy source to the fingers. I do the exercise and Yasaman draw some lines on my hand for helping me to understand that energy source and how to transfer. No, just stick them. Okay, she found the energy line on my hand, and now she's gonna stick some weights. We have weights that are different in from 30 grams to 5 grams, and we use them to help a student understand them. Okay, she's gonna glue them to my arm.
Cool.
It's gonna be a little bit time consuming. If you wanna say something.
No, we have time. We have time. Don't worry. It's not
really cool.
It's not Instagram where it cuts you off after an hour. You can stay as long as you want.
Okay.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
You know, I never thought of veins. Like I thought of muscles, but you're right. It's the blood pumping to the muscle. That's what makes, right?
That's so
and
Yes.
for violinists, it's the worst because we play like this. So I tell my students, when you rest, make sure you let your arms hang. Because we would have a
Yes.
lesson, we would say, okay, break, and they're saying, I'm like, no, that is not helping. Let it do this, you know. So that is, you know, I don't know why I never thought of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we have different actually weight shape in Muse muscle. Some of them are almond shape that help you to understand the direction of the energy. For example, these ones that Yasaman is sticking to my arm, forearm, they are almond shape because they have to help me how to direct the energy from this place to the fingers. And we have some, let's say, circles and ball-shaped ones that help you to find the natural weight of that position that we stick that weight to.
And would that be like, does that change a lot from person to person, or is it pretty general?
No. It really changes from person to person. It really depends at first on your aim, your gender, your muscle tone. Because, for example, my muscle tone is totally different. I have bigger muscles, and your instrument, your aim, your muscle tone, your age, your gender, if you had injuries or not, we have to consider all of them just before sticking them to your hand. Now, because Yasaman always does that for me, we know which ways we have to use. But for a student, it's totally different from person to person.
Wow, this is really cool. This is very interesting.
Thank you.
Wow, it is raining really hard here.
Yeah.
So if you
That's
hear
the sound
any,
of rain.
if you guys hear any noise, it's
It's
rain.
the thunder, rain and thunder.
Oh.
Imagine that you turned on that app, thinking app.
Yeah,
or
it's
whatever,
like
meditation. It's perfect meditation
The
weather.
calming rain sounds.
Yeah.
Is it cold there or is? hot? How is the weather in Texas?
It's usually hot. Right now, it's like very humid. Like it's not a super cold rain. It's probably like in the 70s.
And also Texas is very big, so we're in South Texas where we only have summer and spring basically. We don't have winter or fall seasons. But toward the north, you know, if you go toward like Oklahoma, in Dallas, Fort Worth, their climate is a little bit more normal than others, so they do get colder weather and yeah. But I love this. I love. In fact, when I got my job, my very first academia job was this university. Back then, it was called a little different, had a different name, and I remember thinking, no winter. I am up for this job anytime. So I like having no winter.
Yeah.
I just have a question out of curiosity. How long is, the distance by car between Oklahoma to Rio Grande Valley?
It's a drive we made very, very often, and we will start making again. Technically, if you look on Google Maps from where we are to Oklahoma City, where our family lives, it's about 10.5 hour drive. But of course, it takes us about 12 with stops, you know, because I mean, you usually stop and yeah. So it's. I remember when kids were little, we would make that regular drive to see my mom. By the way, my mom is here visiting, so we're so happy. But I would throw them in the car at 4:30 a.m. I would let them stay up, and so I would sleep, and then we would be able, because they were asleep and tired, so we wouldn't have to make stops until we were well into over half of the trip. And that's the only way I could make it because I was the only driver when they were little. So I remember we used to, yeah, so it's not that far, it's very drivable.
Okay,
So you're all ready.
If you came to Oklahoma, we would be there once.
Yeah, no, you should definitely visit. And we can, like I said, we have family in Oklahoma, and they often visit us here too, so.
Thank you. Yasaman's aunt is in Oklahoma.
Oh, really? Where? Do you know where?
Exactly, Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma City, but I don't know their address.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Incredible.
Yes. Okay, Yasaman has stuck to my hand. When I was playing my index and middle finger, she found that the energy source is here. I'm using these muscles to actually use my index and middle finger. She stuck something here, 30 grams. After that, another one here, which helps me to direct the energy from here to here. And after that, it helps me to understand the line. This is the energy line.
It's 20, and 15, 15.
It's 30, 20, 20, 15, 15, 15. The energy comes to the hand. After that, she has stuck something here, which narrows the energy between my index and middle finger. And then by these two ways, she divides the energy between index and middle finger. Now, if I play the same exercise, you will see that I'm playing it more freely and with more body natural rate. And we do something else. We say we have started here, okay, no worries. But we have to introduce them and help the body find those exact points that we are introducing to it, okay? Yasaman just hit the weights with a stick, which helps me to understand that point and helps me to play my index and middle finger with exactly the source that she wants.
Okay.
Mind, pay attention more to these places and this muscle.
And it's not painful. Don't worry.
Okay, that makes sense.
Again, we narrow the let's say the distance between the At first, she introduces all of them. Then she comes step by step. This one she introduces, and then she narrows the energy here, then here, and then she divides the energy between these two fingers.
Wow.
From big muscles to small muscles.
So, well, I was wondering, so by doing this, actually tapping the, with the, is it helping you to feel where it's
Yes,
coming out
exactly.
better? Because just the sensation, then you could
And
kind of
his
be more
mind.
deliberate about using
No,
those.
no, it really helps me to understand these points. It
Yeah.
helps my mind to recognize these points, actually.
Oh.
For example, when you hurt your finger with hot things like iron,
Yes.
yes, your mind understand the hot things and it's warming, it's mind. احساس خطر میشه.
Find it as a dangerous thing.
Yes.
It's like with you touch the iron.
You
So
know,
you're
we usually say that the things that we learn is by experience. Okay, when I just get hurt by touching the iron, okay, the second time I won't touch that because I know how does it feel, how it feels. Now, by actually tapping on this, she helps me to understand how should it feel to use my index and middle.
Yeah, good. So it's
Awesome.
like, it's basically like kind of like a muscle memory thing, almost, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That is incredible because that's what a lot of times that's basically what practice is all about, is really developing that. But first, you also helping me to recognize the proper muscles that I'm using. And so instead of waiting years for your body to figure out, like when you're a child, I feel like I was thinking, when I was a child, I was just playing the exercises. The teachers are so wise, they were, and, violin pedagogy has been, developed over so many years. So apparently when they were creating these exercises, they instinctively knew that develops, but that takes a long time for your body instinctively figure it out, right? And some people are better at it, some are just more inclined, not better, and so this is kind of with, if you have a more adult player, for example, who has to figure it out on a much shorter scale of time, this is kind of like you put it on steroids, right? And you make it much faster. That's incredible. That's very, very,
Yes,
very.
these techniques and these complementary techniques are exactly like shortcuts. They really helps you to, prevent age of practices. They help you to
Yes.
understand what you have to use at the beginning.
I love the word shortcuts because that's how I teach. I always try to find shortcuts with my students because, as I mentioned at the beginning, they come from a different background. But to be honest, everybody could benefit from that. Why spend years on something you could learn in a week?
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is incredible. It makes perfect
Thank
sense.
you.
It makes perfect sense. Thank you for showing
Thank
us.
you. Yes, we are done. If there are questions, we would love to answer. Let's just
We did get a comment from my friend Tapello. He said he loves it. So that's great. We have lots of people. We have like 5 people watching, which is
That's
great.
wonderful.
We don't have any questions, but you guys were so thorough.
Yes.
I don't think
I think
you guys
that's
were
fun.
super thorough and you explain everything so well.
But
Thank you.
I am hoping that some of my students are watching, and I'm definitely going to make them all watch this, and I'm definitely going to use this, and hopefully in the future we could, if you guys end up somewhere in the States closer by, I would love to have you come over and do a presentation for our studio or something like that. That would be great. Then we could go to the beach and just to the island, have fun, have some dolma. If my mom is here, because I don't know if you guys cook dolma in Tehran. We love dolma, but I don't cook it myself. It takes too long. But if my mom is here, we could have some nice, fun food like that. Or we could just have Mexican food, which is really great here. Speaking of food, do you find is there any correlation between what you eat before a performance? Well, obviously, like some people like coffee, some people hate coffee but just because I know some of my friends, I have some friends who have like this routine. Like one of my friends, she loves peanut butter and banana sandwich, for example, because she thinks that she told me that she feels like whole wheat bread is energy, then peanut butter is fat that helps to stay and then bananas are potassium. I mean, do you have any kind of favorite foods that you like to eat before performance or before something important? I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that choosing food for before the performance is really individual specific, and you have to find the thing that works for you. Actually, we have something in Iran, as Yasaman mentioned before, mizaj. We say our body instinct has some, let's say, some tendency to be in a place. We usually have a class. Just imagine a plus is hot, at the bottom is cold. Right side is warm, sorry, is hot and cold, dry and wet. We say our body instinct is something between them. For example, it could be cold and wet. For example, warm and dry or warm and wet. Okay, is our body instinct. And the food that we use is a national, let's say, tradition Persian medicine.
Oh.
This mizaj, okay? They also use it, I think, in Azerbaijan as well, something like that, because we are all Persian and it's really old one. They use something like this in China or in India. It's almost the same. We say that the food that you choose should be according to that instinct of your body. And sometimes we have different cultures. For example, for me, if I have, for example, a food that is really typical for Chinese people, maybe I won't feel good during the performance. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that we have to use really light foods. We shouldn't have a lot of food before the performance, because by doing that, our blood circulation just concentrates on digestion, and it can operate to help you operate operation of the mind or operation of the fingers. It's all about the digestion. We say, okay, have a light, just. Yeah. But the thing is that choosing food is totally individual and specific.
For example, coffee, it's a cold mizaj, for example, for breakfast, and when your body become cold, it affects in our muscles and in our mind.
In Persian, we say, for example, when your mizaj comes from warm to cold, your energy becomes low and your muscles will not operate well. Mm-hmm. For example, every food has a specific mizaj. For example, coffee is cold, is not warm. So when you eat coffee in the morning, we think that our energy becomes higher, but it usually reduces our energy. What we think is just through, let's say, some saying or stuff like that. But in Persian, we really pay close attention to the things that we eat, and we try to actually, let's say, find which one is good for our instinct. Mm-hmm. If I'm, for example, warm and dry, which one is good for me? I should eat something that is, for example, cold and wet, just the opposite.
Oh, that's
wow. That's awesome.
That's amazing. So, guys, tell us about, first of all, where our viewers can find you. I mean, we will put everything in the, of course, in the description, the links, where they could get in touch with you or find. But also, what are some new projects maybe in the near future that you're working that you would like to share with us and our viewers so they can follow you and support you and maybe watch whatever you're planning, any plans that you'd like to share?
They can actually follow my Instagrams, Yasaman's and Muse Muscle official one. They are all in my Instagram. and they can follow my LinkedIn page, send some connections, and Muse Muscle has a really good website full of information. They can just visit Muse Muscle website and see some, watch some videos. But for the latest updates, it's better to follow my page or Instagram, your Muse Muscle Official page on Instagram. We also have YouTube channels, Ahmed Erfani, my name, Muse Muscle Official. They are our YouTube channels.
Okay, that's wonderful. We'll make sure and post it. And if you guys, if you had some issues with internet, couldn't tune in today, and you're watching this in the future, hello. But make sure and post comments, because you can post comments even after the live is over. And if you have any questions you wanted to ask Hamed or Yasaman, you could post it and we could forward it to them, and they could totally answer it there if they would like. But and if you guys are sometime in the States, make sure let us know. We would love to finally, I don't know, of course, everywhere in the world it's different. The traveling is still difficult between the countries, but it looks like in Texas things are getting a little better. In the US it seems like the travel is renewing. So if God willing, if everything works out, you know, maybe in the near future, if you guys are in the US, would be really wonderful to have you and do a presentation like that for my students or for the university. Would be incredible.
It will be our honor.
Yes.
Thank you so
We would
much.
be happy to do that.
Yeah, this was so great, and
Very
we learned
informative.
so much.
Yes.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. And yeah, again, if there's anyone watching later and you have any questions, feel free to comment and make sure to leave a like and to follow Muse Muscle on Instagram.
I have a quick announcement. We are at 999 subs, guys. So please like this video. Don't forget, it helps the algorithm to push it out to many people. But if you forgot to subscribe, please do so, because
we just need one more subscriber
to get to 1K. Actually, it fluctuates, because it was a couple of days ago it did get to 1K, but I think sometimes the calculations. So we're gonna, as we promised, pizza and piazzolla party, we're gonna have it, but we want to make sure that we have the 1K. One of the things about getting to 1K subscribers, we can have a community page where we can actually post in the feed for you what is going to happen in our channel. You know, it'll be so much easier to communicate, and you could just mark if you subscribed and have the bell marked, then you could see our posts, and we can tell you who is our next guest or when we're coming in. And of course, all state craziness begun in Texas again. I just made a video of an unboxing video of the TMA required editions for violin etudes, so I can't wait to post it for you. I still have to finish the video and post it probably next week. But anyway, so if you were watching and enjoying our videos but haven't subscribed yet, please do, because we want to have our pizza and piazzolla party as soon as possible. All right? And thank you so much, Hamed and Yasaman. It was a pleasure having you. You have a wonderful rest of the week and rest of the summer, and let's keep in touch.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank you for having us, and I just want to add that what you are doing is absolutely amazing, and you will have a lot of subscribers in the near future, because it's really valuable what you are doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.